Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over the NFL draft for the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that's not normal here, but the draft is literally just 1 week away. We are juiced for it. At the way the Bill season ended last year, it kind of sucked. It was kind of hard to swallow, but they were just dead. I mean, they had so much going on. Obviously, the DeMar stuff, they battled injuries the entire year. Josh Allen got hurt halfway through the season and played with one arm. Like, it was just nonsense. You still have the off-season drama with Diggs and Poyer leaving, then coming back, and it's been an absolute shit show. The voluntary workouts officially started, so it feels like football's coming back, and then the draft is next week. So it's just something to get excited about, just to dip your toes in. And as soon as the draft is over, that's when you start looking at fantasy, baby. You see what the team believed in, what did they draft, what are they trying to tell us through the draft. So I'm excited just to be able to think about fantasy football. It's in addition to the Bills after the draft. You can start best balls. I mean, that's a little early, but I'm crazy and I start best balls right after the draft. Like it starts to officially become football season. But we want to fixate on the thing I know most about football, honestly, and that's these Buffalo Bills. I mean, their current roster is built to win a Super Bowl. They're good everywhere, every week, every which way. There's a few things that they need, a few things where they could get some depth, but at the end of the day, we know the Super Bowl will run through Josh Allen, to be quite frank with you. It's a matter of keeping him healthy, keep giving him weapons, and keeping that defense intact. That's where we really got hurt and where our biggest loss was this offseason. So at the end of the day, the current roster is a really good one. I'll tell you the things that we don't need to worry about going into the draft. That's quarterback. Obviously, Josh Allen's going to be your starter. They have Kyle Allen there, who's a mobile quarterback that trains and is good friends with Josh Allen. So we have those Allens in the back. I don't trust Kyle Allen, to be quite frank with you, but he's been a starting quarterback a few times here. We saw him in Carolina. We saw him in Washington. He's started games before, so I mean he's a serviceable backup. But obviously, we want Josh to play the entire season. So those are the two positions where I know they won't even touch anything. Can they draft a QB real late just to finally stop? We had Case Keenum last year. We had Mitch Trubisky the year before. Like, we just keep getting these veteran quarterbacks. Kyle Allen this year, just to fill in case Josh gets hurt. But eventually, maybe they'll just draft one so they don't have to keep doing that. But at the end of the day, it's not really a position of need. And the other thing I don't think they need is corner. We're pretty stacked at corner, to be quite frank with you. We don't have a lot of studs. Trey White was a stud. He tore his ACL and he struggled a little last year. He looked good and he looked bad in some games, but that's him coming back from an ACL. I am not catching any flack for that. That's not his fault. So I'm hoping that I have a theory that after you tear your ACL, your year you come back, you don't look good, but the year after you go off. We saw it with Saquon. We saw it with just a lot of people. I think Dalvin. We see it all the time. They need a year to kind of trust their knee, and then they come back on fire. It happens over and over and over, and that was Trey's first year back from the ACL. So I'm hoping he returns to form. We have Christian Bedford, which I love. He actually was, I think we took him in the 6th round last year. He was either undrafted or 6th round. I can't remember. But he was starting over Kaiir Elam, our number one overall pick or number one pick. I think we picked at 24 last year. That's who was starting over him. Chris Bedford was really good and he got hurt and no one talks about that. Christian was R2. Then we have Kaiir Elam, the guy that we drafted in the 1st round, who had some rookie growing pains. He looked good in some instances. He looked bad in some instances. He had a big interception in the game against the Dolphins in the playoffs. Like he did some good things. He got burnt a few times, but that's just rookie growing pains. And then on the flip side, we have Dane Jackson back there. Dane Jackson, just a solid. We drafted him in the 7th round a few years back out of Pitt. He's had so many secondary injuries that he's accustomed to starting. So it's good to have him as like your 4th string guy. And then Cam Lewis all the way in the back, predominantly for special teams, but he can fill in if need be. So honestly, we have a lot of corners who have started a lot of games and showed a lot of potential. So we have one star, and three backups at our starter level. Also, always twos, but they've all started before, so anyone can fill in at any point. So I feel good about corner. The next thing to think about is the stuff we lost in free agency, and let's just go ahead and address it. We lost Tremaine Edmonds, one of the best linebackers in the league. I mean, there's nothing you can do. We couldn't afford him. We have to pay Josh. We have to pay Vaughn. We have to pay Diggs. Like, there's just no way you can afford everyone. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose at Oliver. I don't think we can afford all of these players, but we have our core players. When Vaughn leaves, he's getting older. I mean, we'll be able to afford some people, but Tremaine, we just simply couldn't match with the pairs we're giving him. Isaiah McKenzie, we lost. I don't know if that's that big of a deal. I like Isaiah McKenzie. I think he's a great guy. Um, I wish nothing but the best for Isaiah McKenzie. Same with Jamison Crowder, but they're slot receivers. And Isaiah McKenzie had a little bit of a drop issue, to be quite frank with you, the last 2 years. He was explosive in some instances, a nice gadget player, but he just had a ton of drops, and we can't afford to do that. Crowder was more sure-handed, but he was hurt the entire fucking season, so we didn't really even see him play. He played what? He got hurt in week 2, and then that was it. So, I mean, losing him sucks because we never got to see him in a Bills jersey. But it's not like he attributed anything, so he can walk. Tommy Sweeney, I don't really care, to be quite frank with you. Devin Singletary, all the best to you, Tommy Sweeney. Devin Singletary, he's good. I think he's very good, and I hope he does phenomenal with the Texans. He's just not a needle mover. Like, he's replaceable, to be quite frank with you. Jaquan Johnson, see you later. Case Keenum, it was fun with your interviews. And we'll see what happens with Ed Oliver. There's still talks of us even trading him this year. I don't know if we should. It depends on what we get back for him because DT is definitely a need going into this draft. But I mean, it wasn't just all negatives in the offseason. We had a few wins there. We brought back Jordan Phillips. We talk about needing a defensive tackle. Jordan Phillips is good. He's just always hurt. He's always hurt. He never plays. So when he does play, he impacts the game and he looks phenomenal. But it's a matter of when are the 10 games you're getting out of him. So that's a little concerning, to be honest with you. Kyle Allen, we talked about earlier. He's started before. He's mobile, so he can fill in the role. Won't be nearly as good, but at least he knows what's going on. Safety Taylor Rapp. I love Taylor Rapp. I think he's very good, and I think they went after Taylor Rapp because I didn't think they were getting Jordan Poyer back, and then they did. So now we have 3 starting caliber safeties, which is super nice. But I mean, do you change your defensive scheme? Because all of them should be starting, to be honest with you. So what? I don't know if we're gonna run a different scheme. What Sean McDermott's going to do because Leslie Frazier is gone. That's a loss we didn't talk about. We lost our freaking defensive coordinator. So I know Sean McDermott is a former defensive coordinator and he trusts Ken Dorsey in the offense and that he can just fixate on the defense. And I love Sean running our defense. He's probably mainly running it anyway. But at the end of the day, I don't know, man. We gained David Edwards. We needed a guard. We need to protect Josh Allen. That's what we need to do. Stop. And Josh Allen needs to protect Josh Allen. He needs to protect himself from these crazy hits. But the ones we allow because of our line, that's concerning. We don't have a great line, to be honest with you. And it seems like they tried to focus on that. They brought back David Quintenberry. They brought in Connor McGovern. Like, they brought in a whole bunch of linemen to try to assist. A lot of projects. These guys aren't, like the Roger Saffold signing with guard last year. We were real excited. We were juiced. He's really good. He didn't live up to expectation, but it was still an attempt. So it looks like we're just taking some shots on some guys that didn't pan out at their previous destination, but show potential. So we're hoping that we're able to kind of adjust, tweak some things, and have them actually protect Josh Allen. Damian Harris is my favorite pickup of the year. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a great running back. I always draft him in fantasy. He just can't stay healthy. Um, but he's not going to have to run as much as he does with the Patriots. Patriots just ran. We like to pass. And he's going to be splitting it with James Cook. So if you have someone that notoriously gets hurt all the time, not giving him as many touches is going to be good for him. But when he does touch the ball, he is explosive. He can catch. He's a very, very good running back. Trent Sherfield's a good wide receiver, 4 or 5. He can kind of go in the slot. He can go on the outside. He can do a lot. He's a very good blocker, which also leads into protecting Josh Allen. So at the end of the day, we're trying to get Josh some help, but more of line help and taking some of the load off. I mean, we gave him Deontay Hardy. Deontay Hardy is a very underrated wide receiver. I love that pickup because we don't have a lot of guys that have a lot of yak. Like they catch the ball, they get tackled right away. Diggs not a big yak guy. Gabe Davis has 0 yards after the catch. Dawson Knox 0 yards after the catch. Deontay Hardy is give him a little screen pass and watch him go. So between him and Hines, they'll definitely have the ability to just kind of let Josh relax and take some plays off. Let some other people do some work on offense. And then they gave him a solid running back as well. So I like every part of what they did on the offensive side. In regards to the things we still need, linebacker. We do not have a Mike linebacker. That's concerning. We have Terrell Dodson. We have the kid from Baylor. I don't know why his name's escaping me. But oh my god, starts with a B. It's driving me crazy. But Terrell Bernard. I mean, we drafted him in the 3rd round like 2 years ago. I don't know if that was because they saw him leaving. They saw that they weren't going to be able to keep Edmonds. They always draft ahead of time. But right now we have no Mike linebacker outside of 2 guys that have never started before. We just got AJ Klein like a day or 2 ago, so that's nice. But he's 32 years old. He's not exactly young. So I take it back. We do have someone that started before now, but we have a really old guy. And if it is Bernard, and that's the reason they were doing it, he's tiny. And we're going to have Matt Milano, who's also tiny at outside linebacker. So they'll be fast. Don't get me wrong. And Bernard's really, really good at rushing the passer. So I have no idea how this Bills defense is going to work. Bean keeps coming out and saying, you know what? We're not drafting a linebacker right away. It's not that big of a need. We believe in our guys. But they also have Taylor Rapp now. Like, do they change the scheme that way? I don't think we're going to see the same defense we did last week. And I don't know if that's or last year. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. The defense has been solid the last like 3 or 4 years. It's been very good. So switching things around, is that going to help us? Is it necessary because of personnel? Is it going to change the way we draft? I have no idea what's happening, and I am excited and I am petrified at the same time. Defensive line, we need a lot of help. We have no defensive tackles next year. At Oliver, we're not going to be able to afford. He's going to be gone. Jordan Phillips is a 1-year deal. God, who else is our other defensive tackle? We have 0 defensive tackles, and our defensive ends not that good. Greg Rizzo is awesome. Von Miller's awesome, but he's old and he's going to retire soon. Boogie Basham is ass. 2nd round 2 years ago. AJ Espinosa is not living up to the hype. He's all right, but he's not a starting caliber defensive end. So we need a lot of defensive line help. We're going to lose half of them, and the ones that we will have on their contract next year are either old or not very good outside of Gregory Rizzo. So we need a lot of help there. And there's a lot of DTs I like that we can get in the 2nd round, but we'll kind of see what happens there. Offensive line, again, it's not that they're the worst. Like we have Dion Dawkins, who kind of played well, kind of not at times. Our offensive line isn't terrible, but it's not good. And we need it to be excellent. If you're going to pass the ball a million times a game, you need to make sure you protect Josh Allen. I know they addressed it in free agency. Address it even more in the draft. We need not just projects. We need guys that can protect Josh now because our window for a Super Bowl is now. Tight end, we have the 5th highest paid tight end in the league in Dawson Knox, and then we have nothing. If Dawson Knox gets hurt, I don't even remember who our starting tight end would be. That's very, very concerning. Like we lost Tommy Sweeney. And I was like, oh my God, do we have someone worse than Tommy Sweeney currently? I know they tried to get OJ Howard last year and that didn't really pan out. So we need a tight end badly. You can get those later, but we're going to have to address it because Dawson Knox isn't exactly a beacon of health. And if he gets hurt, is it Tommy Doyle that we have? It's not good, whatever it is. So we really, really, really need to address that at some point. And wide receiver, because Gabe Davis, I don't think he's coming back after this year. I think he's gone. I think he's a pretty decent player, but he's inconsistent. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to pay him a lot for when he does have boom games, and I don't think we're going to be able to afford him. So we could either lose him, we can trade him. I don't know what's going to happen with Gabe Davis. I like the guy as a person. I think he's a phenomenal guy, but I don't like the inconsistency on the outside. He killed it as a 3. As a 2, he's just not looking as good. So if he if he looks phenomenal this year and actually is consistent and looks great, that's awesome. But then we can't afford him. If he does what he did last year and we can get him at a discount, he's still not the greatest too. That means he was inconsistent. So it's kind of a lose-lose in that situation. So in case he lives up to the hype this year, we're gonna have to draft one to replace him because we're not going to be able to pay him. So those are honestly some needs there. In regards to some sneaky needs that we don't need this year, but we will next year. The wide receiver, as I just mentioned, because of Gabe. Running back, Damian Harris is on a 1 year deal. It's not a long term deal. We have James Cook. We have Naeem Hines, who re-signed. I believe he re-signed for 2 years, but he's not a big back. We need a big bodied back, and we're gonna have to go get another one next year if Damian Harris doesn't re-sign. So let's keep an eye out on that. They do need a larger back. I love James Cook, but he can't be a workhorse. He's not big enough to be. So we're gonna have two small guys back there. And Naeem Hines is eligible to get cut after this year too. So we may only have James Cook going into next year. Obviously, we already mentioned receiver and Gabe Davis. Deontay Hardy's on a 1 year deal. So it's not like Trent Sherfield's on a 1 year deal. So we're really going to have Diggs, and that's it. So we kind of need to address it. And then safety. Safety's big because Micah Hyde's contract is up next year. Jordan Poyer is on a 2 year deal, but it's eligible to be done after 1 year. It's contingent on how he plays. If he plays well, we'll bring him back. If he doesn't, we can cut him and not take a big loss. And Taylor Rapp is on a 1 year deal. So all of our safeties, we have probably the best safety room in the entire NFL, but they're all done after this year. So do you want to bring in someone now and address it? I know Christian Benford has been talking about transferring over to safety. Are you going to switch positions with him? Like, I don't know what they're going to do with safety outside of this year, but it is something they have to keep an eye out because it's going to be a big issue next year. There's a lot of spots next year where they're great now, but they all leave after next year. The other thing I want to look at in regards to the draft is position depth. I mean, in regards to what we have going, there's a lot of good linemen. There's a decent amount of good corners. There's not a lot of good tight ends on the board. Wide receivers pretty heavy. I do like a lot of the wide receivers in this draft. So you just have to think about what's going to be available to you. We don't have high picks. So you got to make them all count. And if you want to address 4 different positions, this is a good draft to do so because it's a pretty deep draft in certain positions that we need. But you have to do it accordingly. Like if you are desperate to get a linebacker, you have Drew Sanders, you have Jack Campbell, you have Trenton Simpson, and then that's about it. It's pretty thin at linebacker. So if you want that, you got to address that first. If you want to address getting a tight end, you can get that in the 3rd round because there's a lot of them. If you want to address getting a defensive tackle, I looked at like 5 of them that I like in the 2nd round. So I mean, it's really a matter of what you need and where the depth is. And the biggest thing with the Bills is we love to move. Are we going to move? I don't know, man. In my opinion, I would like to trade back and then get Jack Campbell. That's my dream scenario. They're talking about moving up. They're talking about staying put, and no one knows what the fuck Brandon Beane is going to do because we've seen him stay still for Kaiir. We've seen him move up for Josh Allen. We saw him move up for Tremaine Edmonds. I've never seen him trade back before. He's pretty aggressive, in all honesty. He kind of reached on Kaiir, too. So we've seen him reach. We've seen him take the appropriate guy in AJ Espinosa with the value. We've seen him go up and take a gamble for Josh. He went up and got Tremaine because he thought he was the talent he wanted. We've seen Beane do it all besides move back, and that's what I want him to do this year. So I don't know what's going to go on. The other big thing to know is that we lost Edmonds, but we will have a compensatory pick next year. We will get an extra 3rd round pick because we lost Edmonds. So do we want to use that as a trade tool? Like, do we want to give someone next year's 3rd round pick because we know we're going to get a second one? And are we just sweetening the pot for something? We kind of have move up potential, to be quite frank with you. We don't need a ton of stuff this year. So it's really we're investing in our future years this draft. And if there's a stud out there and we have an extra pick floating around there, like why not go ahead and move up? Or you can move back if you want to try to address some spots this year and then still get ready for next year and stockpile on picks. You can do that too. So I don't know which direction we're going to go. All I know is if we do move back, I don't want to move too far back. If we move back, I want Jack Campbell. Period. Like that's all I would want if we move back. But Jack Campbell's gonna go. We're at pick 27, I think. Yeah, we're at pick 27. Jack Campbell's probably going to go at like pick 35 or so, anywhere between 30 and 35. So if we move back, I don't want to move back more than 5 spots. I don't want to go too crazy. I want to get something in return. Give me like a third round pick. That's fine. But I do not want to move more than 5 spots because then I think we lose our guy. If we lose Jack and Drew Sanders is gone and Trenton Simpson is gone, then I don't know what their first pick is going to be. All the receivers are gone. I don't want to move. I want to move back, but I don't want to move too far back. What do I think they will actually do? I think they're going to move up. Brandon Bean loves to move up. He keeps talking about moving up, and he does throw a few smoke bombs out there, little grenades, but I think he's being serious when he said he wants to move up. I think he's going to go for a receiver. There's like a core four. You have Jordan Addison. You have JSA. You have Quentin Johnson. You have Zay Flowers. Those are kind of like your core four. And there's a lot of teams that need wide receivers. I mean, you have the Commanders need wide receivers. The Dallas Cowboys need wide receivers. A lot of these teams in front of us need receivers, and I don't know. The Patriots need receivers. Like we'd see some of these guys in the vision. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna move up, and I think I'm gonna be upset that we're not going to be able to fill more positions getting ready for the ensuing years because we used the pick to move up and get someone like I really don't want Quentin Johnson. I don't think he's that good. I wouldn't hate someone like Zay Flowers, but I think he can fall to us. I don't hate someone like Jordan Addison. I think Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison, one of them I think fall no matter what. So I don't want to waste the pick to go get it. But I love JSA. I think he's the best receiver in the class, but I think he costs too much to move up for. And then, of course, there's Bijan Robinson. If the Eagles don't take him at 10, I think we're going to get aggressive and try to get him. If the Eagles do take him at 10, I think we're just going to not move up. I think the only two players we should move up for, the only ones I'd be happy moving up for are JSA and Bijan Robinson. Those are the only two. My dream case scenario, though, we don't move up. We stay and we trade back. We trade back like 5 picks and we get Jack Campbell. Round 2, we get a defensive tackle. Round 3, get a tight end to help Dawson Knox. But get one that can block too. That way we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Have someone be a good backup for Dawson, but someone that can protect Josh. That's what I need you to do is protect my quarterback. And then after that, after you address linebacker, defensive tackle, and tight end, after that, just start investing in the ensuing years. So round 4 through 7, try to hit on some studs, take some gambles, because we have a lot of spots that are opening up next year, the year after. So we need to start addressing it now so that we don't get stuck. We have someone in the system ready to go. I know that was the plan with Terrell Bernard. And all of a sudden I'm poo-pooing on it, but we need to get better at it and just address our 3 major needs and then start investing. We have a solid team. We can win a Super Bowl. The draft is going to be super fun. I have no idea what they're going to do, which makes it even more fun. And honestly, I want sheer pandemonium. I would love for the Panthers to take Bryce Young because I am convinced that the Texans will not take CJ Stroud. They don't like CJ Stroud. I do not want them to take CJ Stroud because if they don't, everyone's going to start moving up and it's going to be sheer pandemonium. Everyone's going to move up for CJ Stroud. Then they're gone. So they're going to, who did they take? Did they take Levis or do you take Richardson? Then Will Anderson is still on the board at pick 8. Then you have the Jalen struggles from Georgia. As these people have a problem with his attitude and his weight, and all of a sudden all these guys start sliding down the board and it just looks better and better for us at the back end. So let everyone cannibalize each other, but it all starts with Panthers taking Young and Houston not taking Stroud. I think it'd be awesome. I think it would definitely benefit the Bills to just sit back, watch the pandemonium, and then go from there. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a super fun draft. It's a week away, and I'm ready to watch it unfold and watch the Bills get their first Super Bowl, baby. Believe.